You know that moment when someone says, "I'm on the way," but they're still in their bedroom deciding whether their outfit feels too much or not enough? Yeah. And before you judge them, check your own camera roll, because you might be that friend. Somehow the clock says 8 o'clock, but your brain keeps insisting it's basically 7:40. You're half ready, half confused, and fully convinced you can still pull off an on-time arrival if the universe is extremely generous today. But here's where psychology crashes the party. According to Nobel Prize winner Daniel Kahneman, our brains fall for something called the planning fallacy, which makes us believe everything will go perfectly. No traffic, no delays, no last-minute chaos. And it gets even better. Researchers at San Diego State University found that some people literally experience time differently. While the clock says a minute has passed, their brain says, "Nah, that was like 45 seconds. So yes, some people are living in a slightly delayed version of reality. This is why you think you can shower, pick an outfit, make coffee, feed the cat, answer 2 texts, and leave the house all in 10 minutes. Meanwhile, real life is laughing at you from the corner. If you've ever tried to quickly do one small thing before leaving and somehow lost 20 minutes, congratulations. You are officially running on what scientists call optimistic time, also known as "why am I like this" time. But before you blame yourself too hard, here's the fun twist. Psychologists say there isn't just one kind of late person. There are 5 completely different psychological types behind chronic lateness, from the dreamers to the rebels to the overthinkers. And one of them is probably describing your entire personality a little too well. So let's see which one you are. A lot of people think being late means someone is careless, but that's not always true. Some people simply experience time in a different way. You look at the clock, you see exactly what it says, but your brain doesn't feel the same sense of urgency. It tells you things like, you still have time, even when you really don't. This isn't about being rude, it's just how some minds naturally process timing and routines. One big reason behind this is something psychologists Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky called the planning fallacy. It basically means our brains guess the shortest possible time for any task. So instead of remembering that getting ready usually takes you 25 minutes, your brain only remembers that one lucky morning when everything took 10. Your brain doesn't lie on purpose, it just picks the best case scenario, and that makes you believe you can get things done faster than you really can. There's also the way some personalities feel time passing. A study from San Diego State University found that more relaxed, type B personalities thought a minute had passed when 77 seconds had gone by. That's a small difference, but it adds up. If your internal sense of time runs even a little slower, it makes total sense why you often think you're okay when you're actually running late. Daily habits play a much bigger role in lateness than most people realize. Some people naturally jump from task to task without thinking about it, wiping the counter, answering a message, checking an email, fixing something small on the way out. Each thing only takes a moment, so it doesn't feel like a big deal. But those tiny moments add up fast. You're not trying to be slow. Your attention just keeps shifting, and time slips away before you even notice what's happening. By the time you look at the clock again, you're already behind. Another reason is simple optimism. Many late people fully believe everything will go smoothly. You assume the drive will be quick, that you won't hit red lights, or that nothing unexpected will pop up. This becomes such a normal way of thinking that you don't even question it. You forget about everyday delays like traffic, digging for your keys, or realizing you needed a few extra minutes to get out the door. It's not denial, it's just automatic optimism. And then there are emotions. When you're tired, stressed, overwhelmed, or just not mentally ready to go, your brain tries to soften the moment. That's when you start doing small comfort tasks, checking your phone, adjusting something on your desk, or doing a quick chore. That doesn't really matter. You're not trying to waste time, you're trying to settle yourself before you move on. It's your mind's way of catching a breath, even if it makes you late. When you combine all of this, optimistic timing, multitasking, emotional habits, and a slightly slower sense of time, lateness becomes much easier to understand. It doesn't mean someone is selfish or doesn't care. It means their brain handles time differently from the clock on the wall. And once you understand that, it becomes much easier to figure out what to change and how to work with the way your mind naturally operates. A lot of people who show up late fall into a familiar pattern without even realizing it. You'll see the person who always thinks they can squeeze in just one more thing before leaving, taking out the trash, wiping the counter, sending a quick message. They aren't trying to be dramatic. They simply believe all of that will take 2 minutes, even though it never does. They're optimistic by default, and to them, everything feels doable. Until the clock proves them wrong. It's not that they don't respect the schedule, it's that their sense of timing is overly hopeful. Then there's the person who overthinks everything. They take too long choosing clothes, double-checking their bag, or reviewing their plans. They're not slow because they're careless, they're slow because their brain won't let them move on until they feel right. A small decision becomes a long pause, and a simple routine becomes a series of checks. By the time they finish adjusting one thing, they realize they're late again. Their problem isn't irresponsibility, it's anxiety stretching time out without them noticing. Another common pattern shows up in people who could be on time, but delay themselves on purpose. They're fully ready, shoes on, bag packed, keys in hand, but instead of leaving, they sit down for just a minute. It's not laziness, it's that arriving early makes them feel uncomfortable. Being early can feel awkward, like they'll be standing around with nothing to do, or like others might judge them for showing up too soon. So they slow themselves down a little to avoid that feeling. They check their phone, fix something small, or just wait until the timing feels right. They're not trying to bother anyone or make things harder. They're simply trying to show up at a moment that feels more natural to them, when they won't feel out of place. For them, waiting a few extra minutes isn't about ignoring the schedule, it's about easing their own social discomfort. Some people run late for a very simple reason. They really don't like being told what to do or when to show up. Strict schedules feel uncomfortable to them, almost like someone else is controlling their time. So when they arrive late, it's not because they're trying to be dramatic or send a message. It's more of a small habit that helps them feel like they're moving on their own terms. Being early can feel awkward or forced, like they're following a rule they never agreed to. And usually, they're not trying to bother anyone. They're not ignoring you or being disrespectful. It's just their way of keeping a bit of independence in a world that often feels too structured. For them, running late isn't about other people at all. It's simply about feeling free and staying in control of their own time. And then there's the person who constantly overloads themselves. They're the one who says yes to every request, helping a friend, answering a quick message, fixing something small, taking a call, all while they should be getting ready to leave. Their lateness doesn't come from being careless. It comes from trying to be helpful and wanting to be there for everyone. They feel guilty saying no, so they squeeze in more than they realistically have time for. But doing just one more thing always stretches longer than they expect. Before they know it, they're rushing out the door, apologizing again, and feeling bad for being late. Inside, they're frustrated with themselves because their intentions were good. They weren't trying to inconvenience anyone. They were just trying not to let anyone down, and in the process, they ran out of time. Think about a typical morning when you're running late. You're looking for your keys, your coffee is getting cold on the counter, your bag isn't zipped, and you're checking the time over and over because you already know you should have left 5 minutes ago. You grab everything in a rush, lock the door too quickly, forget something, unlock the door again, and then speed walk to your car with that familiar, tight feeling in your chest. On the outside, it looks like a messy morning, On the inside, it feels heavier, a mix of stress, guilt, and the silent thought of, why does this keep happening to me? A lot of stress comes from the constant rushing. Walking out the door in a hurry, checking the time every few minutes, and sending texts like "I'm almost there" becomes a daily pattern. According to the American Psychological Association, frequent rushing can raise stress hormones the same way other daily pressures do. That means always being late doesn't just cause inconvenience, it puts your body under more stress than you think. And when this happens almost every day, your nervous system never really gets a break. Lateness also affects relationships in ways people don't expect. Even if you don't mean to make anyone wait, others can still feel disrespected or unimportant. They may think you don't value their time, even if that's not true at all. Over time, this can lead to misunderstandings or small frustrations that build up. Many late people say they feel judged or misunderstood because their intentions are good, but their behavior sends the wrong message. Another emotional cost is the frustration you feel toward yourself. A lot of late people genuinely try to change. They set alarms, plan to leave earlier, or talk themselves through the steps, but somehow the pattern repeats. And when it does, they feel discouraged. They might start to think, why can't I get it together? Or, what's wrong with me? These thoughts slowly hurt confidence. It's not laziness, it's a habit that's harder to break than it looks from the outside. For some people, lateness is connected to old habits from childhood. Maybe they grew up in a house where schedules were chaotic, so they never learned consistent timing. Or maybe they were always rushing with a parent who did everything last minute, so that pace felt normal. Others grew up in strict homes and later used lateness as a small way to feel independent. These patterns don't disappear automatically. They show up in adult life, even when people don't notice the connection. Avoidance is another factor many people don't talk about. Sometimes people run late because they're anxious about the event itself. The people, the conversation, the social pressure, or simply not knowing how things will go. So they delay getting ready or stall without meaning to. This kind of lateness is emotional, not logistical. They're not avoiding the person, they're avoiding the uncomfortable feelings that come before leaving. At the end of the day, the emotional cost of always being late comes from stress, guilt, misunderstandings, and the feeling of not being in control. Most late people don't want to be late. They want smoother mornings, calmer routines, and fewer apologies. The good news is that lateness isn't a personality flaw. Once someone understands the emotional and psychological reasons behind it, they can change it step by step. No pressure for perfection, just small, realistic improvements that reduce stress and help them feel more in control of their time. If you're someone who's always late, the first important step is to stop blaming yourself and start understanding what actually causes the problem. Most people try to fix lateness by forcing themselves to try harder, but that almost never works. What works is figuring out exactly where things go wrong for you. Is it the rushing, the overthinking, the multitasking, the avoidance? Once you know the real pattern, you can fix the specific behavior instead of fighting the whole problem at once. One of the most useful tools is tracking how long things actually take you. Not how long you think they take. Not how long they take on your best days. The real numbers. You can do this for a week with simple notes on your phone. How long you take to get ready, to drive to work, to gather your things, to eat breakfast. Most people are surprised by the results. This step matters because your brain tends to underestimate everything. When you see the real timing written down, planning becomes much easier and more accurate. Another practical strategy is to stop relying on one alarm. One alarm only tells you when you're supposed to leave. By then it's already too late to fix anything. The better system is using 2 or 3 alarms. One for start getting ready, one for wrap up whatever you're doing, and one for you must leave now. It might sound simple, but it removes pressure from your brain. Instead of trying to remember, you let the alarms handle the mental load. This works especially well for people who get distracted easily. Planning backward is another helpful method. Instead of guessing when to leave, you start with your arrival time and work backward step by step. If you need to be somewhere at 8 o'clock and you know the drive takes 20 minutes and getting ready takes 30 minutes and gathering your things takes 10 minutes, you can clearly see when you need to begin the whole routine. This approach forces your brain to think realistically instead of hoping everything goes perfectly. If your lateness comes from doing one more thing, you need a clear stop rule. This means choosing a moment where you tell yourself, after this point, I do nothing except get ready to leave. That means no emails, no quick chores, no replying to messages, no last-minute tasks. This rule sounds strict, but it's actually freeing. You stop getting trapped in tiny distractions that steal your time, and you finally get out the door on schedule. For people whose lateness is tied to stress or avoidance, the key is to make the moment of leaving less overwhelming. That might mean preparing your clothes the night before, packing your bag early, or giving yourself extra time so you're not walking into a situation feeling rushed or anxious. When your brain feels safe and prepared, it doesn't stall as much. You can also use simple grounding techniques, a few deep breaths, a short pause to help yourself transition instead of avoiding the moment you need to leave. The goal isn't to become someone who's perfectly on time every single day. That's unrealistic for anyone. The real goal is to reduce the stress, the guilt, and the last-minute chaos so your day feels calmer and more manageable. Small adjustments, alarms, realistic timing, better preparation, and understanding your emotional triggers can make a huge difference. You're not bad at time. Your brain just needs a system that matches how you naturally operate. And once you find that system, showing up on time stops being a fight and becomes a normal part of your routine. When you put everything together, lateness stops looking like a personality flaw and starts looking like something much more understandable. Most of us don't wake up thinking, I'm going to be late today. It just happens in small ways that build up. For some people, it's that overly hopeful belief that everything will take 5 minutes when it always takes 15. For others, it's the quiet stress that shows up when they're trying to get ready. And for many, it's simply the habit of doing too much before walking out the door. When you see these things clearly, you realize lateness is usually a pattern, not a statement about someone's character. A lot of people run late because of the way their brain handles time. They underestimate how long things really take, or they get caught in small tasks without noticing how fast the minutes pass. Some people are wired to focus deeply on whatever they're doing, so time slips away. Others avoid leaving because they're anxious about the event ahead, and some just dislike the pressure of strict schedules. None of these reasons make someone irresponsible. They just mean that their mind handles time differently from the clock on the wall. Lateness also has an emotional side that's easy to overlook. Being late doesn't just create stress in the moment. It often comes with guilt, frustration, or the feeling of disappointing someone. You rush out the door, you apologize, and you promise yourself you'll do better next time. But when the pattern repeats, it can make you feel like something's wrong with you. The truth is, there's nothing wrong with you. You're reacting to stress, habits, old routines, and emotions that haven't been fully understood. Once you see the deeper reasons, the shame loses its grip. Understanding the 5 common lateness patterns makes it easier to be kinder to yourself. Maybe you're the person who tries to squeeze too much into the morning. Maybe you overthink everything before leaving. Maybe you avoid showing up early because it feels uncomfortable. Or maybe you overload yourself trying to please everyone. Whatever your pattern is, knowing it is powerful. It takes the confusion out of the problem and replaces it with clarity. Instead of thinking, why am I like this? You start thinking, okay, now I see what's happening. And the good news is that lateness can change, not by forcing yourself or hoping your habits magically fix themselves, but by understanding how your brain works and giving it the structure it needs. Small steps like realistic timing, multiple alarms, preparing earlier, or reducing last-minute tasks can make a real difference. You don't have to become a perfectly punctual person. You just need to reduce the stress and feel more in control of your day. So if you've struggled with lateness for years, this is your reminder. You're not alone and you're not broken. Lateness is just a habit, a familiar pattern you learned over time, and like any habit, it can shift with small, consistent steps. Be patient with yourself as you change it. Even small improvements count, and every time you show up calmer and less rushed, you're proving that you're already moving in the right direction. No matter which pattern feels familiar to you, remember this. Lateness is something you can understand and gently work through, not something you have to be ashamed of. If this video helped you see yourself a little clearer, stay with us. We talk about the parts of life most people struggle with, but rarely say out loud. Feel free to subscribe, share your thoughts below, and join a community that's learning to grow at a kinder pace.